G'day, my name's Madoc, and I do research on sewerage. And so when I first started prepping for science comedy, I was told that I should avoid dad jokes. Now, I am a dad, and my talk is about sewerage. You can tell I was pretty shitty about that. Now, beside dad jokes, I'm also passionate about sustainability and protecting the environment. Scientific proof. But I'm also a nerdy maths loving associate professor of chemical engineering. And it's these skills that help me to solve and look at some of the world's great challenges, like environmentally risky contaminants in our sewage and wastewater. Now, I'm particularly interested in what's called emerging contaminants. And I want to know if our sewage treatment processes are able to reduce the concentrations of these problematic chemicals before they get released into the environment, like Cleveland Bay, Great Barrier Reef Marine Park, just off the coast of Townsville. But what the hell are emerging contaminants? Let me introduce them by telling you a story that's probably, common to many of us that have even slight chemical sensitivity. Now, we all must have a friend or a relative who has crazy strong perfume, like my Uncle Terry, who literally bathes himself in Leafs Africa for a big night out on the town. He's single and ready to mingle. Oh, he's likely to stay single, I think. Now, as a new mum and dad, you might have taken your new baby to a family gathering and passed your new bub onto a dosed-up Uncle Terry. And got back a stinky mess. That's not even the nappy that's disturbing the peace. In this case, it's the synthetic musk chemical fragrance called galaxolide, an ingredient from Terry's perfume that is rubbed off on your bub. Now, even if you take that kiddo and get the hell out of there, that strong chemical smell remains. It follows you and fills the space everywhere you go. That kiddo is contaminated. and a new one. If only the principles, the throwaway principles of capitalism applied to our family relations. Here there's a special on it, boys or coals. I wouldn't trust that. Now, in all seriousness, you can actually rinse them off. But that is how this chemical galaxolide transfers from us into the sewage and wastewater treatment system. Now, there are some things, like galaxolide, that cause impacts and affect species behaviour at minuscule concentrations, like a tiny drop of galaxolide from Terry's perfume rubbed off onto your bub, or just 68 micrograms per litre of galaxolide in water, leading to DNA mutations in fish.
Wow.
Or just one Bob Canner, unannounced, at a big crocodile birthday party. things like oxalide, like emerging contaminants, like crossbenchers, can actually have a big effect. Now, this chemical galaxolide is in all kinds of everyday products. Perfumes, soaps, detergents, but you're unlikely to find it written on the ingredients list, and you're unlikely to find it regulated. And our wastewater treatment plants are not designed to remove these types of contaminants. These are the characteristics of what we call emerging contaminants, and there are literally thousands of these things. You might have heard of PFAS, the forever chemical. That's another one of these emerging contaminants. Now, we all need to rinse our labs, shower, wash our clothes, myself included. And eventually, all of those contaminants are going to go down the sink, through the pipes, and into our sewage treatment plants. Now, contaminants, they can come from us, they come from industry, from hospitals, from abattoirs and veterinary clinics. And all of that wastewater gets blended together and fed into, in this case, the Cleveland Bay Sewage Treatment Plant. We were especially interested in our research team in just what the risk is to the environment of releasing that treated water into environments like Cleveland Bay and the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park. Now, we did this work in Townsville. And Townsville has similar wastewater characteristics to most major Australian cities. Of course, we're a coffee-loving garrison city. And so the concentrations of caffeine, amphetamines, and steroids, they're a little on the high side. There's potential for aggro, pumped up turtles out there. Staying up way too late. So, this is the Cleveland Bay Sewage Treatment Plant. And it's a modern plant with a brand new process, a brand new piece of equipment at the end of it called a membrane bioreactor. It cost the council tens of millions of dollars to install. Now that's a biological filter with holes so small, even a coiled strand of DNA won't make it through. 10 times thinner than a single human hair. There's as much chance of particles and bacteria getting through that filter as there is of Uncle Terry getting lucky. Now all that clean treated water gets released into Cleveland Bay, dugongs and turtles, exactly the kind of things we want to try to protect. This is my amazing PhD student, Laura, who does all the sampling and analysis for the contaminants. And Laura's wearing a lot of PPE because there's really quite a lot of hazards involved in sampling for these contaminants. Crocs, mud, drifting contaminant spray. And I just want to make a definitive statement from my university that we don't want to kill our students just for a few good publications. Excuse me, it seems I just received a text message from my Vice-Chancellor. And he'd like to know a little bit more about those publications before committing to that. Now, we searched for hundreds of these emerging contaminants in both the sewage and the clean water. And we narrowed down to the top 3 riskiest contaminants, the contaminants with the highest hazard quotient. That's a measure of whether the concentration of that contaminant will cause a change in species behaviour. above 1 is a potential risk. It's a bit like Uncle Terry. If he can keep it below 0.05, he's going to be okay. But above 0.05, there's a real and increasing risk that he'll change his behaviour and do something stupid. Now, here's the best thing in that. There's Barnaby out there. Now, we found in the treated wastewater, in the clean waster, we found galaxolide, soaps and perfumes. We found T-Sims, a flame retardant used in soft furnishings and plastic coatings. And we found azithromycin, very common antibiotic commonly used. So just how good is this wastewater treatment plant at reducing these contaminants? For most of the contaminants, it's excellent. It can reduce those contaminants, most of them, by up to 90%. But for the 3 riskiest contaminants we have, it's a little bit ordinary. It only reduces them between 0 to 50% at most. And so that treated wastewater gets released into the bay where it is immediately diluted in the bay. And when we sample for the contaminants in the bay, both in the water and in the sediment or mud, we found those contaminants, but at very low concentrations. And so just how risky are the contaminants? So there's the treated wastewater that we release into the bay. Thankfully, when we looked at the concentrations of those contaminants, they were below our risky hazard quotient limits. That alleviates our immediate concern. It's like Terry having a quiet night in. That's good for the environment. We do know, however, that the solution to pollution is not dilution. These emerging contaminants are everywhere. Mysterious and unregulated ingredients popping up in our everyday products. If we can't manage them, we're going to need to deal with the consequences on us and the environment later. In my view, the preferred option is more effective regulation and taking the precautionary principle whereby we prove these contaminants are safe before we put them in products for sale to us. It's really going to be better to keep these contaminants out of the water in the first place. You never know. We might even get to the point where we're comfortable with giving Uncle Terry a lot more baby time. Thank you very much.